We'll get this.
Right.
Hello and welcome, welcome, welcome. We get to be with John Fay at Lada Cube on another episode of Offsite Dirt. It is so fun when I get to have the opportunities to talk to our contributors, and that is what John is. He's on our team. He is transforming the Colorado market and the national market. He's not just in Colorado, but that's kind of where he calls home in Grand Junction. So, John, how are you?
Good, Audrey. Yeah, it's so good to see you. And yeah, I just love, the things that are happening in the Offsite Dirt community. We've got an exciting video coming out that we've been
Whoa.
working on.
I
So
can't wait. I was telling you before we jumped on that I feel over the last couple of months, it is incredible you and your team have done as far as projects. Do you want to walk us through a couple of them? I remember seeing a phone booth. I
yeah,
remember seeing like an ADU. So why don't you go through some of the things that you guys have been working on?
yeah. So I mean, one of the exciting things that kind of speaks to what we're working on is we got the trademark for 2x4 the future. So, it's kind of cheeky in some ways, but it really is such a great definition for what we're doing at Lada Cube and kind of where we see the future of productization of construction. And we do realize we're one of many players, and there's going to be more innovative products coming along, I'm sure, down the road. And so we're just excited to be a part of that ecosystem, trying to lead that category in some ways. But yeah, the product has evolved in terms of, the number of applications that you can build with, which I think sometimes we're trying to really define that for the customer in different ways. But yeah, we're working on actually 6 bespoke room applications that customers can kind of order. But I think one of the most exciting things we're working on is we're working on a partnership in partnership with Autodesk and Cope, so KOPE from the UK. And really, it's this Autodesk's platform through Revit, one of their plugins called Informed Design. And so anybody that's really thinking of, productization, looking at manufacturing, production to actual physical application, Informed Design is kind of be one of those ecosystems that really showcases what's possible in the modular industry. And so just exciting things, because one of the really neat things about those types of platforms is being able to go in there as a consumer and play with the system and really understand like the scope of what is Lada Cube, for example, right? What can I do with it? What are the different cassette sizes? Because sometimes you look at a product like Lada Cube and it feels overwhelming. You're like, gosh, what is this? How do I identify this? How do I use it? And so that's those software side applications are just going to be critical, I think, moving forward. And Cope, if you check them out, they have a marketplace where they're starting to really curate all of the modular and unique building solutions around the world. And so it's becoming kind of this go-to place, kind of like Offsite Dirt, where you can really learn and see all the options of what can I build with, if I want CLT, if I want steel, if I want, volumetric. And they really have a cool marketplace they're creating. So yeah, just those are some things that, we're digging into right now, but with that, I'll be quiet.
Oh, no, not at all. Let's just keep talking. This is fun.
Yes.
And I do love that. I feel like the companies that are going to move forward have to have innovation. And that's kind of how I see Autodesk and Cope. And it was crazy because a year ago, Cope was at the Advancing Prefab event, and they actually were on the main stage talking
Yep.
about their
Yeah.
platform. And just what you're telling me now, in a year's time, what they have achieved and what they're constantly creating is really outstanding. I love that you're a part of that and being able to expand your own product. So over the last 4 months, what has happened at Lada Cube? What have you guys been doing?
Yeah, so really, we've refined some of our offerings on the exterior product side. So we call it a housing kit of parts. Um, it's kind of a really exciting development from the perspective of what it looks like to build structure moving forward, and who gets to build. So we kind of call that the creatives. So it's like a whole new category of builder, and in total respect to the traditional builder, those people that have obtain these incredible skill sets, but really looking at it too from the perspective of seeing a lot of those markets and those skill sets diminishing in terms of population. And so, something has to give, right? So it's like, what does that future look like? And so I kind of like, one of the best examples I can think of is YouTube. And so YouTube came along and they forever transitioned and changed who can be a creator. So before there were the legacy media companies, which still exist, but those companies really were the gatekeepers of information in a way, and who got to play. And it was just by the nature of the technology at the time. I don't think there's no ill will. It was just, there's so much capacity available. And so YouTube came along and they completely blew up the model of who gets to create, right? And so, you can be a person, in your basement, and you can start a news station, and so what that does is it just expands the market share, to multiple people. And I see that really being kind of the future of construction, is just this capacity for other people to really participate in the market that maybe normally wouldn't, through different barriers. And one of those barriers in traditional construction is customization. You require so much customization to create structure, and knowledge. So really I see the future being more productization, assembly, disassembly, which really plays into this really exciting, sustainability model, where you look at products, where they are assets traditionally, but a fixed asset. The second you demo something, that asset goes to zero, less than zero, because you're paying to have it demolished. Now you have this whole new asset class called productization. And it's like, you can take those assets and I call it the 3 R's: reconfigure, relocate, or resell. And so, I'll go into one other thing. So we actually had US Bank in a few weeks ago. And I didn't realize this, but they funded a local project here that we sold to a customer. And they said, you know what, John, we ended up funding this with an equipment loan, which is kind of unheard of, right, in construction. And so the nice thing about equipment loans is the threshold to qualify is much lower, and the speed to qualify is so much faster. So because of productization, because of these asset classes that the bank sees as a value beyond the initial, application or build, it's changing the model of how we build, who can build, how we pay for those builds, and how we reuse those builds long term.
Gosh, so many good things. And who would have thought that US Bank was even considering anything like that? I mean, I think it's amazing, because last year in 2023 was a real difficult year for a lot of construction, a lot of builders, a lot of the offsite community. Yep. Projects got stopped. The interest rate was so high, they couldn't keep them going. And so we're finally seeing the marketplace open. And then just to see that there is some creativity and funding, yay.
Yeah, I think, even eventually to the homeowner, I think there's so many long lasting benefits as more of these technologies evolve. I will say, I think as a whole, I'm seeing a slight retraction in the markets. I think it has probably a lot to do with uncertainties, maybe inflation, but definitely uncertainties, I think, on the world stage, and I think, politics. It's all cyclical. So, Lord willing,
Nothing lasts forever. Change will always be, right?
Yep. So, we just keep our heads down and keep moving, and like, I believe, we'll come out of this slower period. And so just encouraging all these innovative companies, like, be prepared for a storm a little bit, but keep your head forward, and we'll make it through it.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think it is nice to see these trends and these open marketplaces, right? And I love seeing additional ways to build, like you were talking about, a panelized, a cassette system, a modular, an offsite solution. In order to continue, there has to be adoption of new rules, new technologies, things that are going to expand, because there's just not enough productivity out there for the amount of volume that we need. And so it makes me happy. And I feel like you're in such a great state being in Colorado. I feel like the expansiveness, the knowledge, I feel like from the governor's support and other area, politicians, especially in Colorado, they're looking to move the needle. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I feel like Lada Cube, I feel like the state of Colorado, from what I'm seeing, through different propositions and grants and all sorts of funding, is
Mhm.
really, in a way, leading the way, from what I see. And I've kind of had a little bit of a behind the scenes view of that through a company called Cornerstone Group that we work with. They're really big in legislation and really, plugging in people that have influence that can speak on these different categories as the legislators are, working through solutions for ADU accessibility, ADU feasibility, but permitting, allowing for those permit requirements to change. You're seeing geared and modular and other big modular companies moving into Colorado through Proposition 123, which is providing grant funding to really increase the housing supply in the state of Colorado. So, and I would say, we can brag about the state of Colorado. I think we're leading the way in a lot of those categories. And I know other states are working on stuff too. I see stuff in Utah. They have some really big ambitions and goals. I see a ton of stuff in Australia that's being solution focused for figuring out how to increase housing supply. So it's just, it's exciting to see, our officials getting behind these needs because we got to help people. That's the end goal.
No,
Is like
it is.
I have a senior that just graduated from high school. I'm thinking about him, my other kids. Like, how do we create opportunity where there used to be a scaled approach into housing where you could get into, a reasonably affordable house. It might
Like
be
a
a fixer upper
condo. I bought my first condo,
condo.
right?
Yeah,
There,
and what's happening is so many people are getting priced out of those markets because those tiers are kind of don't exist anymore because
right.
when you don't have enough volume, right, of housing, what happens is people that normally would be purchasing higher price housing are now being, purchasing those lower price houses. And, it's just, it kind of feels hopeless, I think, for a lot of people. And so, man, we can do this though. We can get behind it. We can come up with solutions like Colorado is. No solution's perfect, right? So I never
It's
want to.
construction, right? We're always going to lean
Yes,
into something, but I think if you
yes,
keep moving forward, and the biggest thing is dialogue and communication and open-mindedness.
yes, yeah. And homeless housing, I think, is such a huge category right now, and just trying to figure out like what are those solutions and models that work. Because historically there's been a lot of models that just have not worked well.
Yeah.
And so
And
to
you're
go
not
out,
only talking about the housing thing, John, you're also talking about the mental health and mental wellness,
it's the
right?
wraparound services. Yep.
Yeah, we've got so many other areas. So as long as we can keep trying to build and take little pieces, I mean, I see a lot of expansion in Texas. I see a lot of expansion in California, of
Yep.
course. And then I was talking to one of my colleagues. They are literally talking about expanding. It feels like the first expansion in the consideration are ADUs. It feels like now we're starting to really realize that we can at least increase
Yep.
some type of housing in that segment.
Yeah.
And it also works financially. So if you own your home and you have equity in your home, you can probably get a line of credit or you can get some kind of funding to make it happen.
Yeah.
Again, I think the biggest thing too is we've got to start educating. Now we're kind of getting innovative, right? We're doing standardization, productization, but we also have to start helping and working with these bank systems. And that's why it's fascinating to hear about US Bank. I'd love to see other ones that are coming up with some creative alternatives for these solutions.
Yeah. And it's the community effort, right? It takes a village,
Yes.
right? It was so exciting to have US Bank here, and I didn't realize they had funded the project. And just to hear the full scope of that story, it's like, okay, we're moving the needle, one thing at a
Yeah.
time. The other thing about California is new laws around churches or places of faith being able to actually add additional units on their property to help people. So
Oh,
that
that's wonderful. I haven't
came
heard
out
that. That's
recently.
great.
And then I think San Jose in particular passed a law, I believe. Check on this for me. Fact check me. But allowing for, once you do build an ADU on a property, allowing for that property to actually eventually be split into two distinctively different properties. So people eventually gaining ownership, of property, of their house. So exciting stuff,
Yes.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, you guys have these cassettes, you're working through new innovation with Cope and Autodesk. You've got new solutions that you guys are creating. Anything on the horizon for this summer or the fall? You got any big projects coming up?
Yeah, so we've got a few projects. We've got a project in Wisconsin. Another one, we're working on a project for the Department of Corrections. So through the state of Colorado. So really looking at how they can build structure differently. And in that, actually training inmates to build the structure so they can start having a skill set that hopefully when they get out, they can maybe be a Lada Cube installer or
I
something
love that.
something
I
in the
love that.
modular world, right?
Yeah, what a great
So
solution. It gives us hope
yes,
and it gives us the opportunity of creating specialists in the field. And gosh, how wonderful is that to have the ability to look forward to doing that and being creative
yes,
in a situation that maybe doesn't bear the greatest hope and facilities of that. So it's nice to see that there is that opportunity. That's huge. That's really
yeah,
nice.
yeah. I mean, it's been great going and visiting them, seeing the way that that leadership serves that population. You know, it's amazing. It's literally like a community within a community. Obviously, not the community you definitely want to be in if you have an option, but given the fact of life circumstances and where people are at, I mean, it is. They used to have. I know they used to have like a winery, like vineyards.
Wow.
They do all sorts of services, they do all sorts of skill sets to really train that population to, hopefully, go once they,
Yeah, re-engage in society and have a real purpose and feel like they have
yep.
a way
And
to
by the way, they do manufacturing as well.
love that.
And they earn a reasonable wage equal to what you would earn as someone that is not incarcerated. And so they get to use that capital to pay off their restitution
Yeah,
or send money to their families.
it's crazy how we are starting to realize that we have to put more value and honor into humanity. And it's
Yes.
wonderful to see that you're also a part of that.
Well, we're humbled and honored, and we're a small part, but it's fun. It's exciting.
Yeah, it's always cool to be in all different types of segment and not know where the next one's going to lead you, but to actually wander into that space, John, and be willing and open to do that is really phenomenal for a company to consider it. So kudos to you guys. As you know, I'm a big fan of you, so it does it and your team. I think it's really wonderful how you talk about the leaders in your team and you talk about the team atmosphere and how it's so important for the value of the company and taking care of people. Do you want to tell us anything about that?
Yeah, we're always learning, right? We do yearly company surveys that are anonymous, and we really collect that data and learn like what are areas that we're weak in, what are areas we're strong in. So our most recent survey, one thing we learned is our culture is really strong. So yay. Communication's a little weak. So, now we're implementing some new things, on how we can improve that. One of them is we call it the cubies. So it's on the 27th, but it's a Lada Cube, get together with families, and really we hand out awards. It's kind of cheeky, similar to Office. What's the show?
Yeah,
Office.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
what it's called. It's awesome.
Office. That's right. Yeah. So we're trying to have more fun. I tend, we tend to get our head down and just go, 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 go. And I
Mhm.
have to be reminded by teammates like, hey, let's take some time and celebrate. Let's have some fun with this. So it's good to have a mix of people that can really remind us to enjoy the journey.
Gosh, I think we all forget about that,
Yeah,
right? We have this drive and there's all these commitments and things that we want to achieve in our company and we can't
yep,
do it in a day, right? It takes a while and it also takes the right culture, the right understanding of caring about people. And it's funny,
yeah,
John, we don't use the word love in work. Like it's just
yeah,
not word. We don't use the word faith. We don't use these different things, but we all have it and we all
yeah.
do.
Well,
And
I
we
do use it, but
do
sometimes it
you?
freaks people out. But it's okay.
Right. And that's okay.
It's
But at
not
least,
normal. It's not
yeah.
normal.
And at
Yeah,
least you're willing to have those conversations because what 70%, I'm going to say 70% of our lives is in our workplace.
yes,
So once we can start connecting with who we are, once we can start moving the needle, that knowing that
yep,
compassion and kindness
yep,
and actually taking care of the human core of who this company is and why it has been established is truly because of the people, right? We always
yep,
have great leaders that can lead and have vision, but it's truly the ones that we can lean on and we can find out how we can be better and we can have this care for a greater cause and moving forward that really changes the way that we want to work.
yeah. And yeah, I think, we can have the best of both worlds too, in
I
terms of
do too.
getting work done, but also just, loving people and honoring them, you know.
Yeah,
So yeah, one thing we do is we have our 4 core tenets. So excellence is one of them,
I like that.
and then integrity, and then we have innovation, and then we have honor. And so it works in a couple ways. So we have these cards that when we see someone distribute or exhibit, sorry, one of these qualities, we actually write them up. And then we usually will announce it at one of our meetings, just to honor that person. And and we used to have like snacks attached to it. We haven't done that lately, but
Might have to break out some ice cream bars. Everybody loves ice
yes.
cream.
So it's just the little things, but staying consistent, right? And then those things are great for any company, right? Because they really are kind of like the true north that helps everyone understand like this is who we are as a culture.
And acknowledging those people of their amazing specialties and their abilities and actually being seen for what they're doing is truly something that makes everybody feel appreciated. And who doesn't want that?
Yep. Yeah. And you can help me with this or maybe the audience, but one thing we've been ideating on is how do you honor mistakes? Right? Because how do you create a culture where not that you want to make mistakes, but in that culture, like when people clean up their mistakes, like how do you honor that? Like that's what we're trying
No,
to.
it's okay. So this is really cool.
Okay.
When I was at the World of Modular, I'm really so amazed by what AutoVol has done. So they're a
Cool.
modular
Yep.
factory in Idaho,
Yes. Yep.
huge factory robotics, and they have an amazing team and culture. And they have 90, I think it was like 98% retention there after
Wow.
4 years. But they have this thing instead of mistakes, they call it solutions. So they have
Mhm.
solutionaires.
That's awesome.
Right. And so a
Yeah.
mistake is really never a mistake. What a mistake is, or that word that doesn't have the best connotation, is really about us expanding, growing, and actually changing and learning. So there really is something to be said about creating a solution for it,
Yeah.
right? And so I think like what you're doing, and I think a lot of other companies, is it's really changing our dialogue and our language because our words are so meaningful.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, numbers speak, right? 98%. Like that is beautiful,
It
right?
is beautiful and they work really hard on it and they acknowledge people and they have kind of the same thing you're doing, John. They have annual picnics and they honor people and birthdays are coming up. And then if there is something that they have learned, they share it with their team. I
Yep.
love the idea too about lean and lean manufacturing, doing videos of things that have happened and how they actually make solutions out of it
Yep.
and sharing it with the team. I mean, I think it's just the more that we can feel safe in an environment to share our ideas and say, hey, yep, you know what, I messed up, but I'm willing to take responsibility and I want to make it better,
Yep.
everything's going to change.
Yeah. No, I agree. We do what after every project we do what's called lessons learned. And we really go through that document, take ownership, and figure out how we move forward. Um,
So beautiful.
yeah.
Well, this is why I love talking to you, John. I know
Yeah.
we only get to connect quarterly because you are just expanding and doing such great projects and working with so many, but I always love our conversations. I always love bringing it out to the public because I think really truly you are and your team is doing such a great job at Lada Cube, and it makes me so excited to hear about all of these new advances and stuff that you guys are working on.
Well, thank you, Audrey. I mean, I'm just humbled to be part of the Offsite Dirt community. Like you know this, I've told you 100 times, but you are such a builder of people and culture, and the way that you bring people around, and then you give them the glory. Like I see the way you treat people.
Well, you know what? It's because I'm so honored and humbled to be around all these great examples of wonderful humans and people that actually care about others and care about our earth and care about doing things that can only make us live in better places. I want to see everyone be in a healthy home and have this
Yep.
healthy mindset and be able to thrive. And I think we all do our little part here and there to make that happen. So thank you. I appreciate
Amen.
it.
Yep. Takes a village.
It does, it does. And that's another wrap on Offsite Dirt. That's all the dirt on Lada Cube. Make sure to check us out. Like us, share us, and subscribe. We love that you're here with us. Thank you again for being here, John.
Thank you, Audrey.